From Los Angeles, Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
Wow, I mean, first of all, what a question.
Journalism is about telling the truth, all while ferreting out the bottom line.
I'm a Harrison Hellraiser.
Uh-oh. With me, Cary Harrison, as your guide.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
Is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you, your new best friend. Don't forget, you can catch us live streaming right now on Instagram. Simply Google Cary Harrison, C-A-R-Y, Harrison. Instagram, boom, up it will come. Same thing on our YouTube channel. You can also go to rethinkingheroes.com and get a copy of our free newsletter where we have archives of all of the shows going back to day one. Well, you know, when we think of heroes, we think of generally older, more established people with a recognizable footprint, right? Throughout history, many of our heroes have been young, though, risking everything for an unknown future. And in a current world where freedom's fragile balance teeters on the brink, we gather to confront the perils of our time. Dictatorships forming in both the East and the West. Propaganda. Lost civil rights, the unholy trinity threatening humanity's progress. So what is dictatorship? Well, it's rule by fear where one person's power supersedes the people's voice. A single entity dictates truth, declaring often that everything else is fake news, silencing dissent and crushing opposition. What's propaganda? Well, it's manipulated information, spreading like wildfire, fueling hatred and dividing nations. Truth distorted, reality distorted. To many of us, it feels familiar. And hanging in the balance are your civil rights, your fundamental freedoms, dwindling, leaving vulnerability in their wake. Speech suppressed, assembly restricted, equality eroded. Now, from Eastern autocracies to Western democracies in decline, the warning signals are flashing red, the danger being real, pervasive, escalating. But many young people are refusing to surrender. They're rising against oppression. They're uniting for freedom. They're reclaiming what our founding fathers called their God-given rights. They champion truth, they defend dissent, and they demand accountability. But remarkably, many of them are located in former Soviet Bloc countries, in European nations, where education is still considered important, a tool that can never be taken away by a dictator. That education empowers everyone. It empowers you through knowledge, something that here in the U.S., well, it's purposely been eroded, even destroyed in states where governors like Ron DeSantis have made teaching history illegal. Nearly 1,000 books and much book reading is illegal. And being gay, a third-degree felony, along with mentions of climate change. So what is the difference between these governments and Putin's Moscow? Many more similarities than differences, many people think. Well, we're now going to explore these perils, expose their roots, and examine a united front against tyranny. These students say the future of our world depends on it. And I've told you how during the summers I get to teach a specialized course on critical thinking and media literacy in Switzerland to some of the smartest kids in the world that the world can conjure. And it's at the famous Swiss boarding school, Institut Montana in Zug, Switzerland. One of those students reached out to me from her home high school in Lithuania a couple of months ago and set up an opportunity for her school to connect with us here in Los Angeles, Hollywood, here on public radio, to explore the realities of the world as we are both simultaneously living them. It's a special moment for me when passion is reflected back and beautiful young minds seek to be the solution for the future rather than the silent collaborators of its downfall. It's particularly poignant to note that Lithuania sits in the belly button of the former Soviet bloc and is surrounded by both Russia and Ukraine. Fascism, dictatorships, authoritarianism, civil rights, and freedom have only recently existed there and are challenged at every corner. Many here in the States recognize the same thing happening, but hearing it from an unvarnished, untarnished, and unjaded viewpoint of a kid sitting in the worst part of the saddle might offer a keen and new perspective to us, something missing from our hair and makeup corporate media. Sarcasm fully intended. Live from Lithuania, please welcome 18-year-old Atena Gostutani. She's not Italian, but my pronunciation badly made her sound so. She's a senior high school student, one of the founders of her school's writing club, and represented Lithuania in an exchange program in Germany through a prestigious scholarship where she joined other students from 80 different countries. Atena has participated in Erasmus programs in ecology, culture. She speaks English, Lithuanian, and German, is studying business and entrepreneurship, and has studied dance for the past 12 years. Next to her is Noyos Machulis.
Yeah, Machulis. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. I'm up to a C plus now. He's a 12th grader, also in Lithuania. Noyos has a passion for finance and economics. He founded the school's finance and investing course, which connects him to his future students in economics and future studies. And when he's not diving into his studies or reading novels, you can find him on the basketball court or training in track and field. Noyos also gives back to the community by volunteering at local homeless shelters and helping organize TEDx youth for their school. I want to welcome both of you to Rethinking Heroes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was so nice being here.
Well, it was wonderful getting your invitation. And I think anytime you put together something and try to offer, my decades of sometimes miserable, sometimes joyous experience, but pass it on to somebody else. And then they reach back and say, hey, let's do something. It is awesome. And it's awesome also for our listeners to hear the effect of what they do in their relationship with these radio stations, that we're actually touching people all over the world and that we have so many commonalities. So let's just jump into it. You guys are probably fairly aware of U.S. politics. And I'm going to make a guess as to why, and you can tell me whether it's true or false. I'm going to guess that the reason is that if the U.S. falls, Europe falls, Western Europe falls, NATO falls, what hope you have to continue to have more freedoms, that goes away because it gets replaced by someone who doesn't want you to have it. So America is actually, as important it is to Americans, but more important in a different way to you guys, because your future hangs on what we do here.
Yeah, I'd say that we fully agree with this statement. As you mentioned, NATO is very important to us over here in Eastern Europe, and the USA. We're very close relations are very important for our safety and freedom. And so definitely American politics has an impact over here in Lithuania.
Well, what I can see also from even my childhood, I do remember how my parents always noticed and always were so abroad with all of the things that were happening in America. And when I was like just a little kid, I was so curious, well, why is it so important? But right now I understand that basically if America crashes, then we also crash.
Yeah, and your parents grew up under the Soviet system, under the Soviet mantle, where if they just wanted to walk out on the street and say, I completely disagree, they would end up maybe in Siberia building snowmen. I mean, this is the truth. And we all seem to be worried about that. We have something called Project 2025, with which you have some familiarity. It's not a secret. It's been published online a little in advance of the intent of the authors of it, but it was originally authored by the former governor of Florida, who removed opportunity for bullet trains and public transportation. And then that governor was replaced by the governor who's been banning books like Germany of 1938, made it illegal in a school to mention climate change. Now, the state of Florida just went through 2 killer hurricanes. People have been slaughtered, billions of dollars of devastated property. People's lives may never get reset. And there are these governors who absolutely make it illegal to mention climate change, which we know is the source of the problem. Do you, from where you're sitting at 18 years old, do you think that climate change is a hoax, or do you think that that the Earth might be a little upset today?
I'd say that, yeah, absolutely. I don't believe that climate change is a hoax, personally. However, there's always people that through misinformation and false information, they seem to find ways to make this narrative that climate change is just a hoax. And it just sometimes scares me to think about that there are people that trust this narrative and trust these people that are dictating the story.
Well, from my perspective, I would say that it is actually sometimes so comfortable to spread this disinformation for people to believe us. And in that way, I think maybe with some kind of fear, some kind of hope that maybe there is no climate change, then the people are more influenced by, I don't know, politicians who are saying that, other neighbors who sing hi to you in the morning can saying, oh, there's no climate change. And I think we as people, especially younger people, we are more bound to believe something beautiful than something real. Me, especially, I can give me as an example. I'm such an optimist. I love optimistic things. I love rainbows and flowers, and it's all beautiful until you come to real life and until you see the real life.
Well, you know, there's a soothing tonic in hearing 1,000 lumens of airline landing lamps of genius coming out of 18-year-olds. A lot of people feel hopeless that younger generations are completely unplugged, living on skateboards and watching Netflix, like me, to be honest. But that they're not likely to vote, not likely to care, not likely to think that it matters. But you guys, you at 18 years old, you do believe that voting matters, that being a participant in your own future actually has an effect. Can you talk about what you do in Lithuania to stimulate your friends to like wake up and get into action?
Yeah, the problem you mentioned, I personally fight it through, of course, talking with my with people around me, especially the people that are of my age and have not thought about voting. I personally have participated in every election I could at this age. However, the statistics are still sad currently because in the recent election, only 34% of people aged 18 to 22 decided to come and vote. And that is only a third of the young population. That definitely does have an impact on elections. I personally fight this through, of course, talking. And I also try to portray myself as I tend to debate with with people around me. For example, in our class, we tend to do that because it helps promote the idea that voting may actually help.
I think also what plays a huge role in the decisions in general for the younger people, especially, are the teachers. For example, also how Nois mentioned, a lot of our teachers are not specifically recommending us to vote someone or to choose someone to be as our government. But in general, they are just inspiring us to vote and to have our vote and to have our voice not to be silenced. And I think it is really important to show the young people, especially, that it's not who you're voting for really matters. It really matters that you are voting for. And I think it really matters that you are showing your voice. And of course, there might be people who are thinking, well, this person is bad that you're voting for, and the other person is the right one for the role. But I think it's really up to us to decide. And the first step to decide for the right person is just to vote, and is just to have our own opinion and not to be silenced.
Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com. We are talking right now live in Lithuania with 18-year-old Atena Gostautai. And she's, oh, please say it. Rescue me. Your last name. Yes, rescue me.
Atena Gostautai.
Gostautai, a senior at Kaunas Jesuit High School. She's passionate about creativity, learning, making a difference. One of the founders of her school's writing club. She represented Lithuania in an exchange program in Germany through a prestigious scholarship. She speaks English, Lithuanian, German, just like all the rest of us, even understands Spanish. She's studying business and entrepreneurship, and she's joined by 18-year-old Nois Mačiulis, a 12th grader also in Lithuania. And he founded his finance and investing courses, both of them incredibly bright light bulbs, and the future as we can know it. If there's 2 of them, that means there are 20,000 of them whom you don't know about and haven't met yet. So it's important to bring them on so that we can see there is power behind this. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to actually get into propaganda and myth. They, having had parents and grandparents from the Soviet era, and propaganda now being expertly wielded here in the United States and all over the world. We have AI factoring in. What does it mean to you? How is it going to work? And how is it going to turn out? Because at the end of the day, we all know.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Yes, they are. So as we return, we're going to jump into a little Project 2025 video. We're going to let them respond. Then we're going to get into myth and propaganda. And just know the world is going to be a better place because there are such bright kids out there. Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes. Time to give a little love to our station.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Cary Harrison with you, and I want you to remember why KPFK exists. We've been around since the 1950s. This station, this is one of the first stations in America on FM. FM barely existed. This station, along with a handful of others, were the first to be born. And we actually gave away free radio so that people could have something called FM. Freaking magic, right? Because it was all AM stations. And it was started by a pacifist who had seen what happened in World War II, had seen the bombing of Japan, who understood that there had to be a better way than just killing each other, as we did in World War I and World War II, losing millions and millions and millions. Didn't matter what side you were on. And so we've been devoted for decades now to providing the information that simply is no longer available in corporate media. You will not hear CNN bring on voices like these 2 kids today, have them talk about the reality, what they see, what it means to them, and how it works for them. You will never hear that anywhere. That's why we exist. Cary Harrison with you, and I want to tell you how you can save your credit cards, how you can save your paycheck, and how you can save yourself a whole lot of pain. You can call the debt hotline now. What do? Well, credit card companies have special assistance programs that are designed to help you lower your payments. They don't advertise it. They don't talk about it. They don't put it out in the public. Why? Because they don't want to lose money, but it is federal law. You can actually call this number, the one on the bottom of your screen, at 800-932-4109, 800-932-4109, and you can get your credit card bills cut by up to 80%. It's legal. It's federal law. I want you right now to save your credit cards, save your paycheck, and save yourself a whole lot of pain. And call that number right now, 800-932-4109, 800-932-4109. And it is Rethinking Heroes, RethinkingHeroes.com, where you can get our free newsletter. You'll get a transcript of every one of the shows. You'll be able to see them all, as they all are online as well, archived. And you'll be able to see the attractive guests that we continuously feature. These 2 being around 18, live from Lithuania. And we're talking to 18-year-old Atena Gostowat. Say it for me, please.
Gostowtaita.
Gostowtaita, right?
Yes.
That's how I would have said it had I taken another 20 minutes to study the word. Jesus, you guys are way more generous. If somebody screws up an American name, we get angry. You just laugh like, they're more idiots. So I thank you for your kindness and your generosity here. She's a senior at Kaunas Jesuit High School. Atena's passionate about creativity, about learning, making a difference. She's one of the founders of her school's writing club, and she represented the entire country of Lithuania in an exchange program in Germany through a prestigious scholarship. So high-functioning, high-performing, speaks only 18 languages like English, Lithuanian, German, some Spanish, and is studying business and entrepreneurship. So all that in one live human being at the age of 18. Imagine her at 28. It's frightening in a good way. Next to her is 18-year-old Noyas Mačiulis, he's a 12th grader. He's also in Lithuania. Naujas founded the school's finance and investing course, which connects him to the future studies in economics. He volunteers at a local homeless shelter and helped organize TEDx Youth. Not layabouts. Not at all. These are our heroes that we're rethinking and showing right now. Here's what I'm going to do for you guys. I'm going to show you a beautiful piece of video. This was put together by the same folks that do South Park. And it's Project 2025 that you're aware of, that is the plot of the play behind the election of one of our candidates, not Kamala Harris, the other one. And this is what's actually going to happen. So it has nothing to do, sure, we're going to build concentration camps, throw migrants in there, throw gays in there, throw people with bad last names, or as one of the candidates says, people with bad genes. Of course, he is the child of immigrants, but he gets an exception because he's God. And Project 2025 will, in fact, undo everything that my ancestors who built this country, we came over in 1645. We wrote the Declaration of Independence against the king. We helped frame the Constitution. All that will go away. Go away. And we will have something called a unitary executive, which is like a king. And remember, when we created America, no more kings ever, 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 ever. This reestablishes a king. Our Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, recently in this country declared that a president can do whatever he wants, like a king above the law, as long as he says, all he has to do is say, it's an official act. We now have an opportunity for a king, and one guy wants to be that. This beautiful 2-minute piece of video, which is beautiful audio, you can watch it if you go on Instagram to Cary Harrison Instagram channel, or the Cary Harrison YouTube channel, or even on our KPFK Facebook page. You can see this video, but it's beautifully well done with easy to understand audio. And I want you guys to give your take about what you see in Project 2025. And does it scare you if that happens in the US? And of course, the ripples would come back to Lithuania. Let's take a look.
Hey there, who are you?
Oh, just the most important document in our country's history.
You mean the Constitution?
Nope.
The Declaration of Independence?
Yes, again.
The Federalist Papers?
The Federalist... What? No. Even more important than whatever you just said. Now sit right here and I'll tell you all about me. I'm just a little paper for the ages. A way to set the government straight. A short 887 pages on how to make America great again by forcing through the president's agenda, removing all of those who disagree, replacing with our loyal party members, and reclaim our great country. In sum, give power to the president to authorize the government to legislate morality and wrestle back normality from Marxist ideologies that infiltrate our policies like gender, race, or anything woke. We're gonna abolish the Department of Education, turn the swearing in into a coronation. America's great salvation will arrive with Project 2025.
Coronation? You mean like a king?
No, it's called the unitary executive theory. Gives the next president unchecked power to do whatever they want.
So, a king?
Oh, let's not get hung up on semantics. Here's how it's gonna work. Once that we've started the transition, and no one's left to tell us to wait, we'll go through every policy position, get rid of all the language that we hate, like civil rights, diversity, and unions, and pronouns to mention but a few. Defunding any liberal institutions that dare question what we do.
I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court...
Oh, the Supreme Court. That's a good one. Now, where was I? Abortion will be pretty much illegal, and reproductive rights will be gone. We'll get back to the biblical ideal that a family means a daddy and a mom with kids. Repeal the crazy climate regulations that get in the economy's way, with everyone reporting to their stations on Inauguration Day. When we give power to the president to authorize the government to legislate morality, expelling abnormality like godless ideologies, protecting inequalities like gender, race, and anything woke. We're gonna abolish the Department of Education, convert the melting pot into a Christian nation. The stage is set and we'll be going live in 2025.
I can't seriously say all that.
Wanna bet? Come on, let's crack me open.
Page 124.
Make more nuclear weapons.
Page 257.
End the war on fossil fuels.
Page 214.
No more gun violence protection.
Page 298.
Or feeding hungry kids at our schools.
Turn to page
Ban
5.
offensive books from the classroom.
563.
Make it hard to register to vote.
Page 449.
Dismantle Medicare.
534.
Kill off the grizzly
Page
bear.
4.
Delete the term sexual orientation, gender equality, awareness of sensitivity, diversity, equity, inclusion, abortion, reproductive health, and reproductive rights out of every rule, regulation, contract, grant, and piece of federal legislation that exists. And that's an actual quote. And that, my friend, is only the beginning of how this makes America great. You'll be so overwhelmed with all the winning that you won't know what you've lost till it's too.
Wait! This doesn't sound great at all.
No?
No, it sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Well, I guess if you wanted to, there's still some things you can do to stop it.
Like what?
Well, if you vote to save democracy and stand against autocracy and tell your friends and family, enough with this insanity. We fought too long to part with these essential civil liberties like privacy and equity and bodily autonomy and what defines a family, equality and empathy. And we're not going back, and maybe we can stop this radical abomination. The future all depends on your participation. That's the way democracy will thrive. America was made for you and me, so let's defend our freedom and our dignity. Now raise your voice and let's keep hope alive in 2025. Now vote!
Wow. I tell you, that gets me choked up. And it gets me choked up because it's real. It's not a comedy. It's satire and it's beautiful, but this is actually real. And this could be the end of everything we know. I'd love to get your response. You're both 18. You're both in Lithuania. You're both high achieving, very intelligent students. What's your reaction to that video?
The key points I personally saw was, I don't want to mention everything that was mentioned before. I just want to say that the key point there was you have to vote for this not to happen. And I really want to emphasize this. Voting is really important, and this just showcases its importance.
You know, honestly, I loved that video. And now I will tell you why. It actually looked so appealing, especially if a young child is watching it.
Yeah.
The book is singing, the beautiful music, it's fun, you know, you can even dance to it. So I think if we will be talking about propaganda, especially today, it looked so appealing and it looked so fun, so interesting, even if I was a child. And you actually forget to listen to the words, you just start seeing the pictures, and it just, you know, it becomes as if you were looking to everything through pink glasses. It looked so fun, so beautiful. So I think that's one of the great ways to spread propaganda, actually.
There it is. And that was the perfect segue. And you, at 18 years old, Atena, you nailed it. So it is a form of propaganda. It's just what we would call positive propaganda. It's to enlighten and illuminate, but you can't just throw down 800 pages of something and expect people to actually read it. So you create satire. This was the great trick of Jonathan Swift, who wrote Gulliver's Travels, which is a famous English language book about the King of England. But he couldn't write about the King of England because if you did back then, maybe your head fell off and rolled down the street. Nobody knew why it suddenly fell off your shoulders, even though somebody ran away with a blade. And the king would sit in coffee shops and in pubs and listen in. And people did not have freedom of speech and they did not have freedom of opinion. So they wrote, quote, children's books or satires. Wizard of Oz, the same thing. Not about Dorothy, not about cyclones, but really about the federal government, which was the Wicked Witch of the East, the Dust Bowl, the Wicked Witch of the West. And it was about getting this country on the silver standard rather than the gold standard. All that to say, these are ways that people get messages out when a government does not wish messages to get out. And so that's a form of propaganda. I know you guys have some questions for me, you students. And so I am here for you, as is all our listeners right now.
Yes, we do have some questions. So I think it is firstly very important to answer this question and just ask, how is actually propaganda used to influence and control people's decisions, even if propaganda itself goes against their best interests?
Right? Aren't we all asking that? How can somebody vote for that? An example with the recent hurricanes, tornadoes, North Carolina, which is very, very far from where a hurricane actually hit, even farther south in Florida. That was Helene, and then we had Milton. And there are MAGA. These are the Make America Great people that support one particular candidate. FEMA is our federal organization that will hand them money and food and clothes because they have nothing. They have lost 100% of everything. And instead they pull guns on the people at FEMA and tell them to go away. Why? Because their candidate told them that if they take money from FEMA, they are supporting socialism. So you're starving to death. You're about to get cholera. Your children are starving to death, and you take away help because of some concept that you don't even understand. And that's the beauty of propaganda. Propaganda uses tools that feel, not think. So this is emotion over intellect, if you do a sort of a math equation, rather than intellect over emotion. So you get people to feel a certain way, and it works. Back in World War II, when there was no television and there was early radio, but after World War I, Germany, the Weimar Republic, nobody had any money. Nobody could afford radios. I mean, radios were a very expensive appliance, really sort of a piece of furniture. The Nazis gave the Germans free radios. Why? Because what do you think was on the radio all the time? The Fuhrer. So here's your free radio, and you can have nothing but Adolf and maybe some Wagner. And it's every day, all night, and it's during the dinner hour. And here simultaneously during the dinner hour in the 1920s was a guy named Father Conklin, and he was paid for by Henry Ford. I'm sure you have Fords in Lithuania, cars.
Yeah.
Henry Ford was best friends with Adolf Hitler. And Henry Ford tried to put the Nazis on the radio in the United States back then. And this country was actually quite open to it. And part of our early government regulations forbade anybody who was not American from owning radio stations, partially for this reason. But that propaganda of putting the Fuhrer on in everyone's house by giving them a free radio, it worked. Because the only thing they knew, they're not paying for newspaper subscriptions. The only thing they knew is what they were told. And absent alternative information, you can't know whether it's true or false. And so to circle back to your question, we're now in an era where 3 companies in the United States own all the news, and we don't have alternative information. So if you're watching Fox News, you have one perspective. Nobody's saying it's not true. You can't know that it is not true. And so it works.
But would you actually believe that those people who are uneducated in some way or have this limited information, or, for example, also hurt in a way, like you, especially the Florida part in your Tampa after the hurricanes, are they more likely to believe the propaganda, and in what way then?
So let me make an analogy, and I'm going to parenthetically hold that thought because I want to reintroduce you, because people come and go. They're in their cars or whatever. We're talking right now live in Lithuania from 2 18-year-old students, and they're high-achieving students. One is Atena Gostuate, a senior at Kaunas Jesuit High School. She's passionate about creativity, learning, making a difference. One of the founders of her school's writing club, and represented Lithuania in an exchange program in Germany through a prestigious scholarship. Speaking English, Lithuanian, German, and understanding many other languages, studying business and entrepreneurship. Aside her is 18-year-old Noyas Mačiulis, he's a 12th grader also in Lithuania, founding the school's finance and investing courses, connecting him to his future studies in economics, volunteers at local homeless shelters, helped organize TEDx Youth. So you get how smart these kids are, asking about propaganda, asking why would somebody turn away FEMA and all of that. So let's go back to your parents' generation, your grandparents. It's the Soviet Union. When you have nothing to lose, so a lot of people in America, they have no future. They have no retirement. We don't have a government program. We have Social Security, but it's so minimal. And we heard from Project 2025 earlier, that's going away. They will take that away, including Medicare, which is medical help for people over 65. That goes away too. If you have nothing to lose anymore, nothing to lose, you don't have a job, you have no money, no food, you're going to roll the dice like in a casino. You get a Donald Trump type charismatic character who promises you everything. I'm a billionaire. You can be a billionaire too. You can have all the women you want. You don't have to have manners. You can break the law. You can say and do anything you want. They can't come after you. We're going to take apart the government. It's going to be the Wild West. You can shoot what you don't like. You can eat what you like. And you have nothing to lose. Why not? Right? Why not? Yeah. Maybe it's going to be better. And so that's the bottom. There's two sides of this party. This isn't our traditional Republican Party. You have the bottom part, the have-nots, and then you have the haves. This is all invented by the haves. You don't want unemployment insurance. You don't want Medicare. You don't want Social Security when you're the rich people at the top, because you don't want to pay for that. You want all that money for yourself. You want to privatize it. You want to start your own company and then supply services to people who can't afford it, but they're willing to pay anything to stay alive, especially if they're sick. So it's a very twisted, perverse system, similar to the Weimar Republic after World War I. But this is why people are open to this. It always has to get so bad that a bad guy sweeps in and says he'll fix it. And he's part of the reason it got that bad to begin with. Isn't that beautiful? It's like a pharmaceutical company creating suntan lotion that actually magnifies the sun on your skin, causes skin cancer, and then they simultaneously come in with a medication to cure the cancer. Same thing, different approach.
It is actually a great way to influence people, because I've also seen around myself and also like in Lithuania that especially a lot of politicians, they create problems and then purposely solve them themselves. And then for us as the natives, as the domestic people living in Lithuania, we look at those politicians as heroes. Wow, they fixed, a street. Wow, right now we can have fresh air again. We can have more gardens, more bins, which should be just a commodity.
Yeah, they set the bar so low that we start to believe that when they actually start doing something, it is actually a virtue, but it's not.
Yes,
so,
it is true.
For you guys, emotional manipulation, because you see it everywhere else. Really, we're talking about emotional manipulation, using media, using messaging to lead people against their own well-being. And it really works. Like we saw that Project 2025 satire video that was well written, it was well performed, it was well sung, but it made me emotional at the end because I sensed the real loss that I could conceivably see in the next few months. Permanent loss, complete and utter gutting and devastation of this nation with 330 million people with 380 million guns. I mean, it makes anyone want to just sob at their feet, and you realize how much is at stake. But it's that emotional side that works and touches people. So what are some of the common signs or red flags that you see where you live that indicate that people are being controlled or misled through misinformation or deceptive tactics?
Probably the first sign I personally see is when the other perspective is not allowed to speak of. So, for example, when there's let's say a discussion about some sort of policy, the people that want to make a counter argument are silenced. And that's really apparent. And that's what kind of creates a narrative that's really, really destructive if you allow it to foster.
I would also say that each time when everything gets too beautiful or too pretty, I wouldn't believe that it is true, because every time that I see something very beautiful, very great happening on the news, then it's automatically in me to think to myself, well, can it be true? And it's usually not that beautiful as it is, because people love just coloring everything with beautiful and nice colors, and then just actually hiding behind the truth. And the truth is just hidden behind all the lies. So I think the moment everything becomes too beautiful to believe, like some kind of a fairy tale, I would say that this is the moment you have to realize that the propaganda is actually coming, and you shouldn't believe all that is being said.
Cary Harris with you. This is Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com, where we invite you to get our free newsletter. With that come transcripts of all the different shows, archives of all the different shows, which you can find freely online on YouTube. You can find it on Instagram. You can find it pretty much anywhere with a chip and a signal. We're talking right now to two 18-year-olds. They're high school students in Lithuania. I happen to have met one of them in Switzerland. She was one of the highest performing students at a summer school, and she reached out to me and said, hey, maybe our school could interview you, kind of do a reverse thing. And so here we are with this high school online here in Los Angeles, Hollywood, live on the radio. And we're talking about these things that matter really to both of us. And I think it's extraordinary, too, that we get a view from the eastern part of the world, and it's not American-centric, because we all seem to be experiencing the same thing. I imagine both of you have been to Moscow before. Is that right?
No, that is not true. Never.
No, never.
Okay.
I think the thing why we haven't been, I can explain the fact, is basically because of the Soviet Union. I think that our parents and our grandparents were just kind of made to believe, or also kind of scared to go to that part of the country and that part of the world. So that's why they never took us, their kids basically there. But I've heard that it's a beautiful country, and it's not a country, but like a city. It's beautiful, like architecture and so on. But we haven't been there.
Yeah, never.
All that to say, and I haven't been there either. I've been to St. Petersburg several times, but not to. I've been to the Moscow airport, which was among the worst airports in the world. Not that anyone who flies, if you this was during the Trump Muslim ban. So getting back to Project 2025 Light, before he learned some of the tricks, when he did the Muslim ban, it affected me, because I was going to Egypt to see the pyramids, something that everyone should try to see no matter what it takes in their life before all of that goes away. And it's going to go away soon. And because of the Muslim ban, I could not fly to Cairo, Egypt, because what are they in Cairo, Egypt? Muslims. So I had to fly to Moscow, and then Moscow to Jordan, and then Jordan to Cairo. And in the Moscow airport, sorry about the travelogue here, but the seats were ripped up with springs poking out, and all there was some kind of nasty mystery meat along with beets. I like beets, but I don't like 10 pounds of beets with a nasty piece of rotten meat in the middle. All that to say, the subway in Moscow looked like Versailles. And this is the trick of propaganda, is that the public, the general public of all of Moscow, has to take the subway, which means in the common spaces, it's beautiful, just like you were saying, Atena, with beautiful flowers, chandeliers in a subway. So you think you must be living well until you go home.
I think it is really not very different from Lithuania. I wouldn't say that Lithuania is just as Moscow as or as Russia, because they are two different countries with two different stories and cultures. But in Lithuania, there are also parts which are developed very nicely, very beautifully, which are very clean. But then actually, if you go a bit deeper into the actual parts where most of the people are living in, like the medium class of Lithuania, you actually see that there's a lot of left from the Soviet Union, and that there are a lot of buildings which are barely livable, if I could say so. And then you actually think to yourself, me, for example, I can say that I am very lucky that I have my family, that I have a house, that I have where to live, that I have food, because it is quite a problem also in Lithuania that everything is projected very beautifully, but there are also parts which, especially the tourists, they don't see.
Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to end the show. We're going to talk a little bit more about myths, propaganda, and the future, how these 18-year-olds see the world 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and what their recommendations are to their elders and to their peers. That's coming up in about 2 minutes. But right now, we're going to pause for a second and give some love to the station.
Listen while it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Everyone, Cary Harrison with you, and I want to tell you how to save yourself from taxes, from the IRS, from the government that says you owe. Did you know you can cut that amount big, literally by 50%, maybe 80%? But it takes an organization that can pull this off for you. And of course, they're trained to do it, and it is legal. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. In other words, they'll leave you alone. So don't hide or bury your head in the sand any longer. We all would. You could take advantage of this free service. Call now to learn more. 800-281-7048. 800-281-7048. That's 800-281-7048. Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes, RethinkingHeroes.com, where, of course, you can get a copy of our free newsletter. Free, our favorite price. And you'll get archives. You're going to get transcripts of all these shows, and you're going to get to see in written form what these genius 18-year-olds in Lithuania are saying. Plus, you'll be able to see them in the studio that their school built, which is so awesome, similar to what I did in Switzerland, where I got to meet Atena live and in person, living color, where she reached out later, said, we want to talk to you and the people of Hollywood and Los Angeles. So here they are today. We're talking to 18-year-old Atena Gostualte, a senior at Kaunas Jesuit High School in Lithuania. She's all about creativity. She's about learning and making a difference. One of the founders of her school's writing club, represented Lithuania in an exchange program in Germany through a prestigious scholarship. She speaks English and Lithuanian and German and understands Spanish and some French. She's studying business and entrepreneurship. Other than that, maybe spends 2 minutes in the garden. She's joined next to her by 18-year-old Nojas Mačiulis. He's also 18, a 12th grader in Lithuania. He founded the school's finance and investing course, as one does at 18. Not. So is he cool or what? And that, of course, will connect him and unroll the future studies in economics, which he's pursuing. He's another superstar, volunteering at a local homeless shelter and helping organize TEDx Youth. So here we have the best of the best. I'm going to tap them for their thinking on what solutions do you guys have for people older than you who might be burnt out or busy watching Netflix or collecting cars or whatever they're doing and not paying attention the way you are. You're stuck on this planet for about 80 more years. Congratulations. Aren't you lucky? Yeah.
Oh, so, yeah, we are.
Yeah, you got skin in the game, right? For real. This matters how this stuff turns out. What advice would you give people older and then people that are your age?
I believe the first and foremost thing that we have to mention is checking your sources. This is a thing that is relevant for any age, for any person. Sources are key, as only checking social media without checking sources, for example, and trusting these sources as the way to get your information can definitely lead to a lot of misinformation. So this is key.
I think my main suggestion would be just take a good book and read, because usually those people who are writing books, they are not on social media. They are usually not spreading something that they want to say because they have that written on paper. And I have myself read a lot of good books, and not specifically about propaganda, not specifically about somewhat development maybe of a country, But I think if you start just reading books, you start seeing the world a bit differently, and you just start looking a bit deeper into everything that you've been seeing around. Because from my perspective, a lot of truth is especially in the books.
You know, it's interesting you say that, and people are terrified of books on paper because it takes some time, but it's fun. The first book that I ever read that I liked, because in school I was forced to read, Scarlet Letter and Dickens and the same stuff that we all have to read. And it's good, but it's hardly compelling, gripping, and amazing. It's just great writing. And somebody handed me an original James Bond novel. These were written in the 1950s by Ian Fleming. So I'm not talking about the movies, the books. Ian Fleming was a brilliant writer, and I learned so much about politics, power, the Soviet Empire, the Western way of thinking, Spectre or Spiat, whatever it was, lots of little Russian words in there, but really the way that humans react and exchange power through the books now, not the movies. And so there are books that people can find that they will actually enjoy and they can fall in love with reading. And remember, as you're saying, Atena, an author spends years doing research. And if he publishes a book and it's full of nonsense and he gets caught, he's dead forever. He will never recover. It is over forever. So that kind of scholarship presents himself. And that's what you're saying, Noyes, too. Check your sources. Now, people don't know how to do that. That's the problem. They don't know how to do that. How do you do it, Noyes?
First and foremost, there's definitely the fact of the matter that there's organizations and people. So you have, for example, if you're looking at a source that is a person, you have to check their prior history. Have they attended, for example, university, if they're making a political commentary? What type of university they went into? What political views have they showed in the past? Are these views radical, or are they trying to stay critical? This really matters, as context builds. Context is required for us to understand if a source is actually good. And getting context, well, sadly, it takes time. However, we have to invest some time to understand the source for us to actually trust it. That's what I would recommend.
Wow. Well, I am fully fed and satisfied in this gourmet meal of brilliance and illumination. And I appreciate you guys joining us all the way from Lithuania. And I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate having met you first, Atena, and now having Noyes in my world, and knowing that there are tens of thousands of 18-year-olds like you. You probably haven't met them all, but if there's two of you, there's got to be more. We know that to be true. We just don't. Look at that. AI is bringing up balloons because I said that. That scares me, even though it looks cool. And you could see it on the video on Instagram or YouTube. Oh my God. We'll do another one on AI some point, okay?
Yeah,
I want to thank both of you for joining us. We have Atena. We have Noyes. They're both 18. They're both in Lithuania. They're both high achieving, brilliant, sentient creatures who have offered us a wonderful roadmap to a future that is worth living. And I want to thank you for joining us today on Rethinking Heroes.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Any final thoughts that you want to offer people? Or do you guys feel like you said it all?
I think my main wish and my main, not maybe like a suggestion also to the people, just stay true to yourself. I know that it might not sound that it is very combined with the propaganda, but I think it is, because our values inside, they always stay. And it doesn't matter what everybody else is saying. You have to believe what your heart is saying. This sounds so cliche, I know, but it is true, because every information that you have to check, and even if a little bit in your heart you just feel that something is not right, maybe it isn't, maybe it is, but I don't know. I just think that we as people should just stay true to ourselves, also through voting, also through choosing our government, through reading books, through knowing if the information is right or not. Just believe that what you know and what your values are, that they are still valuable and they are still seen as a virtue.
Yeah, and to add on to Atena's point, I would also like to say to just stay critical. Staying critical will definitely help you stay true to yourself, your own beliefs, and your own views.
Well, from your voices to the people of Earth, I am very grateful for this time spent. I have grown because of it, and I know everyone else will too. And I want to thank both of you very much for joining us here on Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes. Don't forget to get your free newsletter at rethinkingheroes.com, rethinkingheroes.com. And I so enjoyed hanging out with you, and I very much look forward to seeing you all next week.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. rethinkingheroes.com.
For you. And of course, they're trained to do it, and it is legal. Credit card companies have special assistance programs that are designed to help you lower your payments. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Hi, it's Cary Harrison here, and I want to tell you about how you can save your credit cards, how you can save your paycheck, how you can save yourself a whole lot of pain. Now, a lot of us have credit card debt that's racked way up, and there's nothing you can do about it. But did you know that there are laws in place where the credit card companies have to let you have a giant discount? Now, they don't advertise this. They don't push this. They don't even want to admit it, but it's available for you. I want you to call the debt hotline right now. Credit card companies have special assistance programs that are designed to help you lower your payments hugely, bigly even. All you have to do is call 800-932-4109, 800-932-4109, 800-932-4109. If you owe a bunch, you're going to owe a little. Wow. Unadvertised, unpushed by the credit card companies, it is federal law. The Debt It Help Credit Fuck. The Debt It Help hotline, call it now, 800-932-4109. Hi, everyone. Cary Harrison with you, and I want to tell you how to save yourself from taxes, from the IRS, from the government that says you owe. Did you know you can cut that amount big? Literally by 50%, maybe 80%. But it takes an organization that can pull this off for you. And of course, they're trained to do it, and it is legal. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. In other words, they'll leave you alone. So don't hide or bury your head in the sand any longer. We all would. You could take advantage of this free service. Call now to learn more. 800-281-7048, 800-281-7048. That's 800-281-7048.